What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Game Week 26 deadline stream. How are you guys doing? Let me just quickly check if everything is all sorted. I'm visible, the mic is also working fine. Do let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, and if I'm audible to you. I think it's going to be a very interesting week. I think it's going to be a big deadline for a lot of managers. There's a lot of chaos that has happened very recently. Of course, we've had these amazing FA Cup results, because of which I think a lot of people kind of prompted or kind of got into that stage of using the wildcard. So much has happened. I'm on my wildcard, as you can see on the screen. My wildcard is active. I'm sure a lot of people are also using the wildcard chips, and chip in particular, of course, with a certain chip strategy, etc. But do not worry if you're not using the wildcard this week. I think it's absolutely fine, and I'm sure a lot of you will have a lot of questions in general in terms of what to do with regular transfers, even which players to kind of go for when we are not using the wildcard this week. Maybe you're on a wildcard and you want to know in terms of which players to go for on a wildcard, because I think a lot of teams are quite similar on the wildcard, and maybe you can differentiate by going through certain picks, by going through different options. I think we'll discuss all of these details, all of these questions, etc., on the stream today. Do put in whatever questions you can. I think it's a really important game week. Maybe not a lot of people are understanding the importance of this week, because I think from this week we are pivoting to that kind of a stretch or a phase where I think a lot can be gained. There is definite potential to gain a lot of ranks in the upcoming game weeks, and especially with the doubles in 27, especially with the blanks in 28, doubles in 29. I think there's a lot that can be, that can be gained. So do make sure that you're aware in terms of what is happening, where, and of course we will be there in terms of helping you out in terms of content, in terms of setting up your team nicely. I'm sure most of you might have a different chip strategy. A lot of you might be going for a wild card this week. But yeah, we'll discuss all of those intricacies, all of those details. So feel free to add as many questions as you can in terms of players, in terms of transfers, in terms of captaincy, chip strategy. There's been some content out this week as well. So in case if you want to check out the wildcard draft in a lot of detail, because I might not be able to, dwell a lot deeper into the wildcard in specific, but if you want to give it a read, we did a blog on insanelyfootball.com. You can check that out as well. So I think that should be really, really helpful. It's a comprehensive guide in terms of using the wildcard chip. It kind of compares the wildcard in Game Week 26 with the wildcard in 27, 28, 30, 34, 33, sorry, and then the multiple chip usages as well. So I think that could be really, really helpful. Hello to you, Soumya. Hello to you, Nigel. Welcome to the stream. I hope you guys are ready, and I hope you guys are excited about Game Week 26. Maybe not the most exciting game week in isolation, but I think this is where, as I said earlier, right, this is where we are getting into that stage of pivoting to a specific strategy, maybe using free transfers. There's a double in 27, may not be the most exciting double, but I think a lot has kind of revolved around that. So I hope you guys are ready with your teams, etc. Please feel free to add any questions in terms of your team transfers and all that stuff. Who to captain, Haaland, Saka, or Kane? Excuse me. I think all of them are good options. In terms of captaincy, I think there are two clear standout options this week. So there is Haaland and then there is Saka. Haaland is a good captaincy option because, of course, number one, he's Haaland. I know that's not enough reason to captain Haaland in general, but I think captaining Haaland is still a safe option. It's still a very decent bet to kind of make. You're not really going against the crowd. The EO might be more than 100%, so the gains might be slightly limited. But then again, maybe a lot of people also pivot towards the Saka. Now Saka has been in great form. One could argue that Saka has been in slightly better form than Haaland. I know I might get a lot of stick for this, but I think Saka could also be highly captained this week. I mean, I've read some polls, I've seen some polls on Twitter where a lot of people are captaining Saka instead. So yes, the fixture is really good. Bournemouth are a very leaky defense, but then again, would you really want to digress and move? I mean, it's a ballsy move. It is absolutely a ballsy move. It takes a lot of guts to not captain Haaland in a week where I think a lot of people would be captaining Haaland. But yeah, from a potential point of view, I think Saka definitely has the better fixture. But then Haaland has been rested. He didn't play in the FA Cup game, so he will be fresh. It's Newcastle, but it's a home game, so it's basically Newcastle playing away, and that might be a bit trickier than Newcastle playing at home. And of course, Man City has a home fixture. So I think all of these factors combined, I'll still say Haaland is a safer option. If you are okay taking a bit of a risk, if you are okay maybe moving or at least having in your head that you might have some rank loss, I think Saka is a great option. But just be aware of the risk, because the fact that a lot of people would be captaining Haaland, and if he does well, the rank loss could be massive. But I think both options are really good. Kane, I mean, it's still very, very difficult to trust the Tottenham team, because one week they will score a lot of goals. Kane will probably do really well. Though Kane has not been very explosive, mind you. I mean, he's not been scoring these 12, 15, 20-pointer hauls. I mean, he's ticking along, he's getting an assist, maybe he's scoring a goal, but that's not enough from a player that is costing 11 million plus, right? And plus, Tottenham are a team who are quite unpredictable. I mean, they lost the FA Cup game, which was an absolutely huge surprise. I mean, who would have expected, Tottenham to lose that game, right? And just because of that fact, and it's a away game, Wolves might be, a little bit tight. I mean, I don't think so. Wolves are going to be very, very defensive because it's a home game for Wolves, and they will try to attack. So that might leave a little bit space behind, for somebody like maybe it's a better game for a Son, for example, or maybe it's a better game for a Kulusevski, for example, or even a Richarlison if he starts, right? Kane might drop in deeper and try to link up the play, and there is maybe more assist potential with Kane. So I'm not a huge fan of Kane captaincy, but I think Haaland and Saka both good. Haaland safe, Saka a little bit risky. Nigel, your team is Ward, Dawson, White, Tarkowski, Bruno Fernandes. Somebody still has Bruno Fernandes. It's just great to see. That's coming from a Man United fan. Mahrez, Rashford, Pereira, Martinelli. This definitely looks like a non-wildcard team. Kane, Haaland, David De Gea, and Nketiah, Diop, Trippier, one free transfer, 1.4 million in the bank. I mean, the obvious issues in this team is definitely not Dawson, definitely not White. Ward is okay. You have David De Gea, that's also fine. The issue with this team is probably Mahrez, because I'm not very sure in terms of whether Mahrez is going to start. I mean, let me know if you are sure if Mahrez is going to start, or what do you guys think about Mahrez starting. But I'm not very confident. Rest is still okay. I mean, it's not really bad team for this week. But yeah, I mean, 27 could be an issue because you do not have a lot of your Brentford and Brighton. I think a lot of people, a lot of managers will at least have four, if not five or six. I think the wildcarders would kind of reach towards that five or six category, but I think the general trend would be three to four players from the Brighton and the Brentford team, and I think that's where your decision is. I think you can downgrade Maris to maybe a Brighton option. I think that could be a decent bet to go for. Maybe Tarkovsky also can become a different player, but that could be done next week as well. I mean, you can definitely move one of Diop or even Dawson. So maybe you can even take a hit and try to get an additional double game week player for next week. But I think this week, or maybe just save the free transfer this week. I mean, it's not only Mahrez is a bit tricky here. I think rest is okay. And Nketiah is on the bench, and I think that also could be a bit tricky because you have Martinelli and Nketiah and White. And I think if you have to make a shift, I think you'll have to take out Nketiah, maybe go towards a Tony, and then you maybe operate or open a space for an Arsenal option as well. I think that these are the decisions that you'll probably have to take with this particular team. I still do not think, and let me know if you think you're wildcarding. I still don't think this is a team worth wildcarding. I think you can easily make a few transfers, take a few hits. I don't even know if your wildcard is available or not, but I think that's where I look at in terms of planning my transfers. Hello, Ansh. Hello to you as well. Welcome to the stream. Late night TED talk really helped. I mean, yeah, uh, I did have a conversation, and I think it. So there's been so much content that has been put out, and I've been so involved in terms of what's happening with the wild card, what are the best players. I didn't even look at my team till last night properly in terms of what players to go for. Of course, I was creating a lot of content, so I had some idea. But when I started, tinkering about my team, I think there were a few changes, etc., that we made, and I think that did really kind of help. Why are you going for Henry over Saka? Just asking. I'm not going for Henry over Saka. I mean, I'm not going for Henry over Saka. I'm going with Henry and Saka. If this question was Henry over me, then I think me is slightly more expensive. Henry is definitely a lot cheaper. First, Henry also has some decent assist potential. First of all, I think the common ground here is that both of them are nailed. I don't think so any of them has any minutes sort of a risk, and I don't think so anyone is going to get benched there. Secondly, me definitely has slightly more goal threat. Henry won't have that goal threat, that is agreed. But then Henry does have a little bit more assist potential. He plays in a bit more attacking position. And maybe we might just get lucky with an assist, maybe a clean sheet, and then we can add up in bonus points. I just don't feel, especially when I have to make certain moves, like maybe get towards a Bruno Fernandes, get towards a Madison, for example, in game week 29. I don't think so. I want to spend that additional money, it feels like a sideways switch or a sideways extra money spent on a player which I can kind of save. A sort of a similar strategy was also for Ward here. I know Ward and Kepa are two different options, but I just didn't feel that Ward or Kepa warranted that additional money. On paper, yes, Kepa does make a lot of sense, and the Raya Kepa combination does make a lot of sense. But I still think I would not want to go for Kepa because Chelsea aren't really keeping clean sheets. I mean, yes, we have, because of historical data, because of historical information, because of what we've seen in the past, Chelsea are a very good team in general, but they haven't been playing really well. They haven't kept a lot of clean sheets. Kepa also, I mean, yes, there is saves potential with Kepa, and he can always, crop up in the bonus points. But I'm still thinking, is he really worth the additional money? And that's where the dilemma also kind of came in. And I think Ward, even if he gets a clean sheet, I think my work is done because I'm just going to play the bench boost in game week 29. That's my strategy, and I'm not really going to use that Kepa money or Kepa position anytime soon, right? And I don't want that headache of Raya and Kepa every week because goalkeeper combinations are very difficult to nail. You might end up playing the wrong keeper, and the keeper on the bench might outscore your starting goalkeeper. So I don't want that headache. I don't want that anxiety every week, and I think that was the decision that I made there. I'm 80 points behind in my mini league with my friends. Is it worth to risk? Is it worth the risk to remove Haaland and have Kane, Watkins, and Tony? I mean, it's worth the risk for sure, but is it really worth? I mean, I think because the fact that you are 80 points behind, I mean, you can take a chance, take a risk. But if I'm taking these chances, I think I'll still have Haaland, maybe not captain him, maybe captain a Saka, for example. I think that is where you can also differentiate and have that safety net with Haaland. But if you just want to go all out aggressive, if you want to really, try to catch up in your mini league, I think that's definitely a strategy. I mean, you can take off Haaland. I'm sure a lot of people in your mini league will captain Haaland. So you definitely want Haaland to blank, right? And if he scores, I think you are just gonna go far away, or you're gonna incur more losses. But I think it's worth the risk, especially when you're that far behind. You're not going to keep Haaland, or you're not going to captain Haaland maybe next week. I think still a lot of people would be captaining a double game week player. Then 28 Haaland is blanking. And then 29 they just have one fixture. I know it's Liverpool. One would say that Liverpool is a tricky game, but I think Haaland can still score a hat trick against Liverpool, considering how worse or how bad Liverpool have been. Surprisingly, they just kept two clean sheets in the double, which kind of came out of nowhere. But I think Haaland has brace potential, has hat trick potential against that Liverpool defense. So I would be a bit wary. I'll probably try to make my gains elsewhere by maybe captaining a different option, by maybe going for some differentials like a Madison, like Inacho, like Watkins, or maybe try to get in Watkins through a different route. I don't know if you have a different route available, but I think that would be my direction. Haaland still for me still feels like a player that you should own and you should have in your team just because of that safety and because of the fact that he can absolutely go berserk on any game week and you will definitely have a lot of rank loss. United wins one trophy in 6 years in my I mean, yeah, of course, United won. A lot of people are saying it's a shit trophy, it's whatever. I really don't care. Just because of the fact that we've been playing really well. I mean, I've said this before as well on multiple streams and in general as well when I'm talking to people. More than the trophies coming, and the trophies will come eventually if a team is playing well, if there's a system in place, if the players have good confidence, if there's a good structure to how things have been run in the club. But I just feel it's just a good feeling to see United play now. It is not depressing. It doesn't give me anxiety. It doesn't give me sleepless nights. I don't cry. I mean, I cry when United win against Man City, or they probably won the the Carabao Cup final as well. But in general, I just feel happy seeing United again. There is a lot of confidence. There's a lot of positivity. Not a lot of people are talking shit about United at the moment, which is a respite considering what you read and what you go through, on social media. Of course, you have somebody like a Chelsea or some team like a Chelsea who are really struggling at the moment, and you don't want to see that. Of course, they're rivals and all of that stuff, but you definitely want to see Graham Potter succeed and Chelsea succeed, considering how much money they have spent. I think there'll be a lot of pressure on the manager to perform, and I think he's just hanging by a thin thread or a thin rope. I think there are high chances that he may not survive, or till the international break. I think if things go really bad, I mean they're already bad, but if things go even worse, I think he can definitely get fired. Is captaining Rashford a risk? I think it's not a risk. It's definitely a great alternative to somebody like a Haaland or a Saka. I definitely consider him a better prospect than somebody like a Kane. I know Rashford is playing Liverpool away, so it's not a home game for Man United. It's a home game for Liverpool. The atmosphere, the crowd, etc. All of that is being considered. I just feel Rashford is still in great form to get a good haul. I mean, he's been playing absolutely crazy. If you've seen Man United play, even if you saw the Carabao Cup the final game, even if you see the general Premier League games, I think Rashford is absolutely on it. I mean, there is I don't think so there's a game where you would be comfortable saying that Rashford cannot brace in a game, right? So he definitely has a lot of potential, and I think he will do well even against the Liverpool defense. I think he'll do well. McAllister and March or McAllister and Martinelli. It depends on whether you want to attack or whether you have a third slot already taken or maybe open in terms of your Brighton options. I think if you want to maximize the double game week in game week 27, I think going with McAllister and March is a really solid option. I think you can easily go for both these picks. McAllister and Martinelli is definitely more attacking, but I think in general, I think you can try to target or try to attack the double game week. Martinelli does give you a sort of a safe cover in terms of the Arsenal options. If you already have a Saka, for example, you don't have to go towards a Martinelli. You can, maybe possibly just move towards the Brighton second option, second midfielder here, and then try to maximize the double game week. I think that would be my strategy overall. Going for wildcard, Kepa, Raya, Gabriel, Estupinian, Henry, Botman, Trippier, March, Mitoma, Saka, Odegaard, Rashford, Haaland, Tony Kane. I think it's a very solid team. You don't necessarily, I don't see any changes, to be very honest. I think it's a pretty good team. March, Mitoma, strong combination. Saka, Odegaard, safe combination. Rashford, Haaland again, a safe hold. Then you have Tony and Kane. I think it's a solid team. Do you think Madison will start? And I think Madison does start this week. Maybe he comes off a little earlier because he's coming from a slight injury risk and all that stuff. He feels like he's a good option. I mean, in general, if you look at the quality of Madison and if you compare it with Martinelli, yes, this season has been a bit of an outlier for Arsenal because Arsenal has been playing really, really well. But in general, if you've seen Madison, I think there is always that potential that he can get you those 15, 20 pointers. But the fact that it's very difficult to predict what Leicester is going to do. I mean, can you really predict what Leicester is going to do, or whether they're going to score every game week, whether Madison does get involved? I think Madison still does get involved in most of their attacks and most of the attacking output, etc., which whatever Leicester provide. But it's just very difficult to predict what Leicester is going to do. And just because of that fact, and because of the fact that Arsenal are top of the league, I mean, they are one of the best teams in the league, probably the best right now. I think just because of that fact, I'm going to be a little bit, safer here and go for a Martinelli. Now, in case there's a caveat here, in case if you are chasing, right, if you're trying to gain rank, if you're trying to do a little bit opposite in terms of what your rivals are doing in your mini leagues, for example, in your friend circle or whatever leagues you're competing in, I think in that sort of scenario, and if you're chasing, I think in that sort of scenario, Madison definitely is the better option. In general, the sound logical approach would be to go for a Martinelli. Uh, Now, between Martinelli and Odegaard, I think both options are really good. I just feel Martinelli has this slightly higher potential to get you a bigger haul. Yes, Odegaard can be very creative. He can still get you bonus points in spite of not even getting a goal. For example, he's been known to give a lot of bonus points because he tends to get a lot involved, and his overall goal involvement numbers are definitely higher than Martinelli. But it just feels that Martinelli right now, with the confidence that he's in, there's always a chance that maybe Gabriel Jesus is not starting and somebody like a Trossard still starts, because whenever Trossard is starting, I think Martinelli's performances have been a lot better as compared to when Nketiah is starting. And and maybe not a lot of people are noticing this, but Nketiah as a striker will try to occupy those central positions which Martinelli also kind of move towards. So when a Trossard is playing or when a Gabriel Jesus is playing, because they're kind of fluid strikers, they kind of move towards the wing. Sometimes they play in a central position and they kind of exchange positions with Martinelli. That is where he really benefits, and has a lot of goal threat. With Nketiah, he's not getting that because Nketiah is occupying that central position and he's not moving wide. And I think because of that fact, Martinelli for me definitely looks like the more aggressive option. In case if you're worried about his minutes, which could be an ideal worry, or which could be a genuine worry, I think then you go for the safer Odegaard. But I think if you're going a little bit aggressive, I think Martinelli is definitely the one to go for. What's the reason for Estupinian Raya over Sanchez, second Brentford defender? Considering option two is, I mean, it does give you an extra fixture in game week 28. It is also probably cheaper. I just feel, first of all, Raya over Sanchez, I'm not very sure because, first of all, Brighton are not really keeping a lot of clean sheets. That's number one. Under De Zerbi, they aren't really keeping clean sheets. So I'm expecting Estupinian to, probably give us an attacking return, maybe come up in bonus points. And if Brighton get a clean sheet, I mean, that's definitely a bonus. So I'm not very confident there. In recent weeks, yes, I mean, you can argue that the fixtures were slightly better for Brentford, but Brentford have kept a few clean sheets. Raya in general has the best potential for saves. I mean, in terms of underlying stats and data, he has the best stats for saves made in a game, saves made per 90 minutes. And I think just because of that fact that how Brentford play, they concede a lot of shots. Now when they're conceding a lot of shots, Raya has a potential to make a lot of saves, which is not the case with a Brighton keeper, for example, because Sanchez again is somebody who doesn't really make a lot of saves, so it's probably going to be 2 points or 6 points for most weeks. Raya, on the other hand, maybe can give you 7, 8 points, maybe even 9 points when he's getting 3 bonus points, along with any save points that he gets. So I think there is definitely more potential, with going for a Brentford goalkeeper and as compared to a Brighton goalkeeper here. In Brighton as well, I think the defenders generally get a lot of bonus points. So you have the likes of Dunk, you have Estupinian, you have other defenders who have a higher ceiling as compared to somebody like like their goalkeeper, for example. So I think that's the reason I'm gonna go for Raya over a Sanchez. And then the other option is that I, of course, like Estupinian. When I compare Estupinian with, let's say, like a me or a Henry, I generally feel that Estupinian definitely has a higher ceiling as compared to a Brentford defender. So the combination for me is definitely better. Can definitely outscore the other combination, which is going for the Brighton goalkeeper and a Brentford defender. The extra fixture that I'm getting, I can easily get that by using my free transfer in game week 28. I can save a free transfer with the current team at least, and I'm talking about my team in particular here. With how I'm structured and how I'm set up for game week 27, I can save a free transfer in 27 and have two free transfers in 28, and then I can get that additional pair, maybe get up to 10 or even 11 players with a couple of transfers, or I can just save that one transfer and then shift that transfer to 29. So that also gives me flexibility, and I don't think so it's really bad, to be very honest. I mean, transfers can always help us bail out of certain situations, and I think I'm pretty okay there. Was playing on the same Mahrez out and Mitoma in this week. Next game week, Tony for Nketiah. I think those are really good moves. Why have you benched Mitoma? So there was the option of benching either March, Mitoma, or Tony. I think Tony against Fulham, especially when they concede a lot of chances, they do, concede. They don't have Palinia. I think I've got that. I've murdered that name. I think Palinia. So he's suspended. He's not playing in the game, and I think without him, the defensive stability of Fulham is a bit rocky. And I'm not very sure whether they can keep a clean sheet. And I think Tony has good potential. Yes, there's always are these doubts about his ban and everything, but I don't think so. It's gonna be between the game. I mean, there's always a chance that he finishes the game and something else comes up and all that stuff. But I think playing Tony against Fulham this week is absolutely fine. It's a home game as well, so I think it should be okay. Then between the decision was between March and Mitoma, and I think when you compare both, Mitoma recently has been playing a lot wider. Now, because of that fact, his goal scoring numbers or his underlying stats haven't been that great. I mean, in general, they haven't been that great. He's overperforming his numbers. He's been taking crazy shots, and they have been going in. Now, some might argue that that might not happen week on week, and maybe that Lingard sort of a run, that Bowen sort of a run, that Almiron run that we've all seen this season, that sort of thing may not continue, and it's not continued, right? And because of the fact that March has been getting a lot of shots in, he has been taking shots in the box as well. He has been playing in more attacking positions, and his underlying stats in general have been better. So I think the decision was between March and Mitoma, and I think March is a slightly better option. The opposition is the same, right? It's West Ham home, and it's not going to be a very easy game. But I still believe that March may just outscore Mitoma, and I think is that feeling that I haven't, because of that and the reason that I've mentioned. I think March was the one that I played in, Mitoma is the one that I benched. Otherwise, I don't really see any other options. I don't want to bench Martinelli or Saka because of the fixture. I don't want to bench Rashford because of the fact that he's been in great form. United are on a different playing field or on a different level at the moment in terms of confidence. And I think they can easily, score at least one, if not more, goals against Liverpool, even if it's an away fixture for United. So that's where I am, and that's the reasoning. Mitoma or March, I've mentioned. For me, it's March this week. I mean, in general, if you are looking at a transfer, I would suggest March. If you are looking at a double up, I think both options are great. If you're looking at one option to play this week, as I mentioned already, I think March would be my pick. Still have my wildcard, triple captain, free hit available. That's pretty decent. I mean, you can use the wildcard in 27, you can use it in 28 to tackle the blank, and then prepare your team for 29, or you can just directly use it in 29. If you still do not want to use it in 29, you can also use it in 30 or even 33. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do, especially when you have the wildcard available, especially when you have a decent team to field this week. Because I think a lot of people who didn't have a good team, they just went on or rushed on to that decision to play the wildcard, and they didn't even give a lot of thought to it. I mean, of course they did give a lot of thought in terms of whether the wildcard is better, etc., and how to structure the wildcard. But I think it was an easy transition because of the fact that the wildcard chip was available, and there was this easy passage to transition into a wildcard, take care of 27, 28, 29, and try to move towards. Let's say a lot of people do have a free hit available and try to move towards a free hit in game week 32. I think a lot of the game week 26 wildcarders are kind of moving towards that strategy in general. So did you have Martinelli next last week? I did have Martinelli last. I've had Martinelli for a really really long time. I don't think so. I've ever moved on to Odegaard, or I did. I don't remember, but I think I've had Martinelli for a really really long time. So I wanted to move him for Odegaard for sure, but I couldn't because of funds, etc. And I think that was the right decision at the end. And he was an absolutely savior, or a great pick in fact, in the double last week. Is Tony getting the ban for upcoming fixtures? I mean, the ban is expected, but there's a lot of speculation in terms of when the ban will kick in. I think a lot of people are saying the hearing is in April, and before April, nothing is going to happen. So I think for the near future, especially for the 27 double, I think we should be fine. Maybe things change by game week 29 for the double, and if they do, I mean, we can easily switch to a different option. You can go towards a Watkins, Iheanacho. So there are potential outlets, even a Chelsea attacker. If Chelsea start playing well or start doing well, I think you can even transition to a Joao Felix, for example. So there are a lot of options that you can pivot to. Are you backing Haaland over Kanti? I mean, I that's always there because Man City does have the first fixture and it's against Newcastle. And generally, what we've seen that the first game, the early kickoff doesn't really work out for captaincy. I mean, I know it's a general trend, but when we see matchups, when we see data, when we see opposition data, I still think Haaland is fine. And I mean, yes, there's always a chance that Haaland can blank and Saka can definitely outscore, but I'm just a little bit skeptical in terms of going with Saka this week. I mean, he's still a great option, but I'm scared. That's the reason I'm not doing it. Thoughts on Madison over Odegaard? If you already have Saka as your Arsenal midfield cover, you don't have to go for Odegaard. Madison is definitely the more attacking option in terms of getting you rank gains and all that stuff. The fixtures are also really good. He's fine. He's fit. My only concern with Madison is that I'm not very sure in terms of how Leicester is going to do or how consistent they can be, because they can be very erratic in their results and very erratic in their performances. And I'm giving myself the opportunity to see Leicester for a couple of weeks when the fixtures are decent, and then probably take a call in game week 28 or even 29 when I have to move towards Madison by maybe changing a Brighton mid, or maybe changing, let's say, a Martinelli to a different option or a Saka to a different option. So I'm just gonna give it a couple of weeks to see how Leicester do. But I think if you move on to Madison right now, it's not the worst decision. I think it's a great differential, and I think you could do really really well. I won free transfer and I'm wildcarding next week. So, who's the best defender to bring in this week as a 1 week punt? Now, in case if you're looking at a 1 week punt, I'm not sure if you have an Arsenal option. I think an Arsenal defender this week looks really solid. You can even look at maybe a Leicester defender against Southampton. I know it's Southampton at home, but they haven't been doing really well. I know Leicester's defense is a bit of a joke right now, and you would think, why would you want to go for a Leicester option? But I think against Southampton, a team which is not very high in confidence, I think somebody like a Castagna, for example, might do really well. I won't necessarily bring in a United option, an Everton option. I know it's Nottingham Forest, but still, I mean, I still think there aren't really a lot of 1 week punts to go for because of the fact that the fixtures are not very clear. I mean, even Brighton versus West Ham is not a very easy game for the Brighton defense. Chelsea, I mean, you could possibly target Chelsea, but maybe Chilwell as a 1 week punt, but it's against Leeds. Chelsea aren't really playing well. Are we sure that Chelsea are going to keep a clean sheet? I'm not very sure there. Maybe you can even look at, in fact, I would, if I'm looking at a 1 week punt, I'll probably look at Chelsea. I know they aren't the best team out there, but I think as a 1 week punt, it's fine. Or even somebody like a Emerson Royale, for example. I think it's Wolves, and they might just end up keeping a clean sheet. Royale, especially since the World Cup restart, the FPL restart since the World Cup, has been in great form. He's been scoring a lot of points, and Spurs are also a team who you really can't predict. But as it's a 1 week punt, so you necessarily don't have to keep that player for a longer time. So I think those are the two options I'll probably look at. How about going for me instead of Henry? I mean, you can definitely go for me instead of Henry. He definitely has more goal threat. For me, I'm just trying to save that additional money because I have a feeling that I might need that additional money to make moves towards a Bruno Fernandes or a Madison. I still have 4.3 million in the bank, which sounds like a lot of money. I mean, it just sounds criminal to have that much money on your wildcard chip, but I think I'm okay saving that additional money. It's not a huge difference. I mean, yes, me can always score from a set piece, and I'll be left red faced here, but I think Henry is fine. I mean, you can, if money is not an issue for you, if you have your moves sorted out, if finance or budgets etc are clearly worked, I mean, definitely go for me. Why not? Henry or me, or also Estupinian or Dunk. I mean, I'm inching towards Henry, but I think me is definitely the slightly better option. And definitely Estupinian is better than Dunk because of the fact that he can contribute in both ends of the pitch. He is also good for bonus. He can also get you attacking returns. Dunk has some attacking threat from set pieces, but it is not very prevalent, or he's not shown enough data to kind of back, or for us to kind of back him over an Estupinian, for example. So I think those would be my two suggestions. What are your thoughts on Castagna as a nice differential? I already mentioned, if you are looking at a differential, if maybe you don't want to double up on the Newcastle defense on a wild card, for example, if you're just looking for a differential, I think Castagna could be okay. Leicester's defense hasn't really looked that great. I mean, they are conceding a lot of XG, and that's the worry because they are quite leaky. They are conceding a lot of chances, and it just feels a bit risky to go for a Castagna option. But I think as a differential, why not? I think it's definitely worth it. Start Ward or Edison. I mean, I've been hearing a lot about people getting burned by Edison, and I mean Newcastle against Man City. Newcastle might still, it might be a very close game, 1-0 sort of a game for Man in favor of Man City, and I think Man City might just keep a clean sheet. But yeah, I mean, if I'm really taking a chance here, because both keepers feel like a chance, I would probably start Ward. I mean, might be a controversial choice, but I think I'll start Ward over Edison. Can you please give your thoughts on Castagna? I've already mentioned. Take a punt and go Madison over Rashford. Why not? I mean, for me, Rashford is still an option that is worth holding. And because the fact that he's in great form, plus the fixtures are decent for Man United. They aren't really bad. It's Southampton. The blank is there in 28, so you have to kind of navigate your way around it. But I think fixtures after that also look pretty decent. The double is okay. It's Newcastle away and Brentford home, not the worst double. And then Everton, Nottingham Forest, even Chelsea. We don't know what's going to happen to Chelsea till or when we reach game week 32. They might still be leaky. Potter might be there, might not be there. We do not know that. But I think I'm in the camp where I'm holding Rashford, and I think there's a lot of merit there. But in case if you feel that Madison can outscore Rashford, which is definitely a school of thought, I mean, you can definitely go for it. It's not the worst decision again out there. Raya, Gabriel, Henry, Davis, Martinelli, Saka captain, Mitoma, Rashford, De Bruyne, Haaland, Tony, rate your starting 11. I mean, De Bruyne is somebody I would probably want to move on from because I just don't see enough value by spending that much money. Maybe you can downgrade to a different option and spread that money, make certain upgrades, and better your squad in general. Davis again, not very sure. I think that's the only worry in defense. Rest of the team looks pretty solid. Zaha, good choice. I mean, Zaha is always a good player and he does really well for Crystal Palace, but I just feel they're better options. If I'm targeting, I think Zaha is around the 7 million mark, if I'm not wrong. We'll quickly check the price for Zaha. 7.2. So, I mean, you have Odegaard, you have Martinelli, you have Rashford in that sort of a price range. I think all of them are better options. If you have a little bit more money, maybe Madison is a direction that I look at, and I think those are better picks than Zaha at the moment. Yes, they do have a double in 27. They don't have a double in 29. The fixtures are Man City and Brighton, so it's not the easiest double. And then there's Aston Villa, which is a leaky defense. So you maybe, if Zaha plays, he can score against Villa. Then Arsenal in 28, which is not that great. I think the run from 30 to 34, 30, till the end of the season, in fact, I think Spurs away is the only tough fixture for Zaha and Crystal Palace. But if I'm looking at Crystal Palace at all, I think that will be the window. Game week 30 to 38 would be the window where I look at because they don't really have really tough fixtures. And I think, again, it depends on whether they do really have anything to play for, which I don't think so they will. Whether Zaha's trying to make a point, whether he's trying to get a summer transfer, I think he could be in a different zone. He could be in a different sort of a performance state, a performance level if he's trying to buy that move in for the summer. So I think in that sort of a range in terms of game weeks, I think that is where I look at Crystal Palace. Maybe not now. If I don't use my free transfer now and I'll wildcard in game week 27. So if you don't use a free transfer right now, no, so you won't get two free transfers. It'll reset as one free transfer in 28. It won't be the free transfer won't be carried out. It basically goes to one when you activate your wildcard. So it won't get carry forwarded. Martinelli, Odegaard. Martinelli is the more aggressive attacking option. Odegaard is the safer option. I personally think both are okay in terms of minutes. I just feel Martinelli is slightly more explosive in terms of scoring a goal and having goal threat. In terms of overall involvement, Odegaard is slightly better. So I think it's not very. I mean, it's not a very. It's a close call. It's not a very simple or easy yes or no, or this player or that player sort of a decision. I think depending on whether you want to go safer, whether you want to take a bit of a risk, I think these are two directions that you take. And Martinelli, for me, I think it's Martinelli because I'm a slightly more aggressive player, and I think I have a feeling that he's gonna outscore Odegaard. I'm not tempted to start Ward, provided they play easier opponent. I mean, Fulham at home could also be decent. Might not be the worst fixture, but yeah, I am tempted. Let's see if we do that move or not. But I think I'll just stick with Raya. I mean, I can spread the risk by playing Ward ahead of Raya, so that definitely is an option. But just not very confident about Leicester's defensive capability at the moment. Congratulations on Fernando Alonso getting P1 yesterday. I mean, it was just free practice. So let's see what happens in today's practice. I think the third practice is probably going to give us a slightly more better idea. I mean, I think P2 was, practice 2 was actually a good indication in terms of what the pace would be of, Aston Martin, of the Formula One cars in general. But yeah, I mean, I think qualifying is where we'll actually get some idea. And then, of course, the race tomorrow should be really interesting. I mean, just happy to see Aston Martin. I mean, not really a Aston Martin fan in any way, but just happy to see Alonso doing really well, and why not a championship for him, right? I mean, considering the last one came so long back, and just happy and just chuffed that he's done well so far. Trippier and Share or Trippier or Botman. I think in terms of data, in terms of the move on paper, the logical move is Share. There were some rumors about him not being fit. I'm not sure how true those rumors are. We'll quickly check, but I don't think so. I did come across anything in terms of Share not playing or not starting. But yeah, I mean, if you are okay in terms of money, if you can afford that additional, or you can spend that additional money, I think in that scenario you can go for Share. But I mean, I'll just save that additional money again. It's a similar situation to me versus Henry, right? Where I'm just saving a little bit more money. And I think whatever I save here could be very crucial in terms of making a certain upgrade. When I talk about upgrading a Martinelli, upgrading a March, upgrading a Mitoma, for example, I think this additional money might be a difference between a Fernandes or a different player, right? Or a slightly cheaper player, for example, especially when I'm looking at maybe game week 29 and try to maximize the United double, for example. So for me, I think I'll go Botman. But if you have additional money, also see the transfers that you're making and how much money you have in the bank. Just don't see it as a 1 week transfer, because in terms of clean sheets, Botman is going to give you the clean sheet. In terms of bonus points, I don't think so. It's a huge difference. And I think I mean, Share doesn't really have that much of an attacking threat. He's shown decent stats, but he's not really gotten any goals, etc. Right? So it's not a huge thing, or a huge difference. I'm going Real in my wild card. That's a strong and a very aggressive move, and all the best for that. Will Madison start? I think he will. And you can go for Madison over Mitoma. Yes, he doesn't double in 27, but he does give you a fixture in 28 and has a good or a decent double in 29. So not the worst call when you look at the next 3 or 4 fixtures. It might pay off. But yeah, 27 is where you might see a certain rank loss, or maybe your competitors or your mini league rivals, etc., slightly moving ahead or slightly gaining an advantage over you in terms of points. But don't get worried. I think over the next 3 to 4 weeks, Madison should come off well. Fernandez or Mahrez? Definitely Fernandez. I think Mahrez, I'm still not very sure. Fernandez is a nailed starter in the United team. Mahrez, I'm actually, I did benefit from Mahrez when he was starting and he was playing. But now, because of the fact that Foden has come into the frame, and we still don't know. I mean, Mahrez might still end up starting the game and Foden might get benched. So, but we don't know that, and it's just not worth the risk for me. Botman, share or burn? For me, it's still Botman. Data wise, share is the best. I don't think so. There's a lot to choose from between Botman and Burn. Burn definitely has the least goal threat, or the goal involvement numbers, or comes last in terms of general goal involvement. But I think Burn and Botman are the same price, so I think I'll still go Botman. But if you are okay spending that additional money, if that additional money is maybe not used elsewhere to make certain upgrades, then I think share is fine. Wildcard active, should I sell Dunk for Estupinian? I think you should. Estupinian is definitely the better option. Play Ward or David De Gea. This week, I'll still play David De Gea. I'm still very confident and optimistic in terms of United playing really well. I know it's at Anfield. Excuse me. So yeah, I think I'll play David De Gea. Who to start, Mitoma or March? I've mentioned this in detail, but I think March is the better option. He has better stats. He's looked more attacking. Mitoma's playing in a slightly withdrawn or a wider role, which limits him to maybe assists and not goals, which might not be the case with March, and you might end up getting a goal or two through March. It's a tough fixture. They might not end up getting anything at the end of the day, but I think if I'm starting one, I'll start March. Start Kepa or Raya and start March or Mitoma. So it's March over Mitoma, and then I mean Chelsea's is against Leeds, Raya's against Fulham. If that was the option, I think I'll still start Kepa. I'll take my chances with the Chelsea defense. I know it's not a very comfortable decision because Raya and Kepa both can concede this week, and it's not ideal, but I think it's not a huge difference for me, to be honest. Both defenses have looked. I mean, Chelsea's definitely looked poorer in terms of when we compare the numbers, etc. With Raya. Raya does have a lot of save potential. I mean, he has the best stats in terms of saves made and saves made per 90 minutes over the season. Kepa also tends to make a lot of saves, but yeah, I mean, it's a close call. I'll just start Kepa. Option Kepa to Ward and Wildcard to free money for the future. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going for. If you see this is my team. This is my Wildcard draft, and this is the final draft. So I'm not going for Kepa. The reason I'm not going for Kepa is I don't necessarily see Chelsea keeping 2 clean sheets in the double in 29. It's a tricky double. It's, I think, Liverpool and Aston Villa. It's not an easy double. Both teams have good attacks. I mean, they are struggling in defense, but they still can score goals. Chelsea maybe not, because they're not even managing to score goals. It's an odd situation there, but I think in general, I don't the idea of spending that additional money just for that one game week, because I won't be using. I can only use one keeper, right? I can either go for Raya or I can use Kepa for most weeks, and I don't want that benching dilemma every week where I'm thinking whether Raya is the better move, whether Kepa is the better option. I don't want that, and it's highly likely that we get this thing wrong, especially when we talk about goalkeeper combinations and goalkeeper rotations as compared to getting it right. So I don't want to have that anxiety, and I think you can save that money, especially when you can make upgrades or you can use that money to make certain upgrades. I think it's definitely worth it. I don't think so it's worth keeping an additional or such a heavy option on your bench, especially in terms of your goalkeeper. I don't think so it's worth it. Raya, Kepa, Zinchenko, Estupinian, Trippier, Emerson Royal, me, Rashford, Saka, Martinelli, March, Mitoma, Haaland, Kane. I think it's a good team. Raya, Kepa, I've already mentioned my reasons for not having Kepa, but if you want, I think it's fine. Emerson Royal is a really good option. Me again, I've gone Henry, but I think me is still okay. I think it's a good team. I don't necessarily see any changes. No Haaland on my wild card, got Watkins instead. Next 2 game weeks will be scary, Savvy. I mean, definitely scary. Definitely hope and pray, and just pray to your gods that Haaland doesn't do anything. There's always a potential that he can go absolutely crazy, and you'll possibly have a tough week. But I think it's a risk. It's definitely a risk. I won't be comfortable, and I can't lose my sleep. Maybe in the game, while I'm creating content and all that stuff, it's fine. But once the game week is over, I want to rest. Or I want to at least recharge myself over the next couple of days, and I don't want to have that anxiety over the week. Of course, it's the first game, so we'll have an idea very early on how that has kind of panned out. But yeah, it's just scary. Why am I going for Martinelli or Odegaard? Martinelli looks like the more aggressive option, especially when we talk about goal scoring. He has better goal scoring stats than Odegaard. Odegaard, yes, he's more creative and he generally can get more involved, and that's why his overall involvement, goal involvement numbers are better. and that also spells good for bonus points. But I think Martinelli, especially with how he's played over the last couple of weeks, and I mean, even if Gabriel Jesus plays right, I think it's also good for Martinelli. The only scary, it's not a scary thing, but the only worry for me, I think, would be if Nketiah is getting 90 minutes and then Martinelli playing with him, because I don't think so Martinelli really benefits from Nketiah playing as a number 9. I think when Trossard is playing in that fluid role, or when Gabriel Jesus is playing in that role, I think that is where Martinelli really shines. And I think I'm going to take my bet and take my chances with him. I'm an Alpha Tauri fan, prepared for the season of misery. I mean, yeah, it's looking a bit tricky and a bit difficult for Alpha Tauri. It's still very early in the season, right? I mean, it's still the first race. There will be a lot of development, but yeah, Alpha Tauri, it just feels like, I mean, there have been rumors, there have been conversations about the team getting sold, and all that stuff is also happening behind the scenes. And the driver pairing is also, I mean, Nick De Vries, I really rate him very highly, because he's not a, I mean, in terms of F1 terms, he may be a rookie, but I don't necessarily see him as a rookie. I think he's a very good driver. I'm not still not sure about Yuki Tsunoda in terms of what is he gonna do there, but yeah, I mean, AlphaTauri could have a tough season. Start Mahrez or Fernandez. I've answered this, but I think I'll start Fernandez. Odegaard, Martinelli, Madison suggestions. In terms of, if this is me who's making these, or who's rating it, I think it's gonna be Martinelli, Odegaard, and Madison for me. That's kind of being in the middle of, being an aggressor and try to play it very safe. If you want to play it very safe, I think it's gonna be the rating's gonna be Odegaard, Martinelli, and Madison. On the other hand, if you are doing upside chasing, if you're trying to go aggressive, if you're trying to catch up on rank, then I think it'll be Madison, Martinelli, and Odegaard. I think the ranking definitely changes there. So it depends on what is your game state. How do you want to play? Do you want to go safe? Do you want to go aggressive? Based on that, you take a call. I'll take the middle ground here, and I'll basically go for Martinelli, Odegaard, and Madison, that order. If there's one option to choose from, I think I'll choose Martinelli out of all the three. Gabriel Zinchenko. Gabriel has better goal threat, but Zinchenko is the better overall player in terms of, his goal involvement. He has assist potential. He can score goals. Good for bonus points. I think the long term move is Zinchenko. But in terms of whatever oppositions, at least the next three oppositions that Arsenal is facing, they all do concede a lot of chances from set pieces. And I think Gabriel from set pieces is a really good pick. So in case if you're looking at a short term, if you don't want to hold this option maybe beyond game week 28, 29, I think in that scenario you go for Gabriel. In case if you want to keep this option for a slightly longer term, I think in that scenario you basically play Zinchenko. Any City team news? Let's just quickly see. I don't see any. I mean, there aren't any leaks, anything like that at all. Nope. I'll keep checking out. There's still some time to go. We have about half an hour to go, I think, to the deadline. And we'll see. But right now, I don't think so. There's anything. Hey, Luis, I'm doing well. I hope you're doing great too. Was wondering if I should do Mitoma or Martinelli for a -4 to fund the Kane move. I have Saka and Odegaard and Rashford already though. I mean, you don't have to do the Kane move. In case if you really want to do Kane, I'll probably take out Martinelli, and then because of the fact that you already have Saka and Odegaard, I mean, if the midfield is Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Mitoma, then I think I'll definitely take out, if Martinelli is your desired pick that is going out. I think in that case I'll take out for a -4. I'll keep Kane. I mean, for a hit it becomes a bit tricky because Martinelli does have a great fixture. Maybe don't do it this week. Maybe do it next week. But yeah, I think I won't do it. Never back the early kickoff. I mean, you shouldn't and you wouldn't. But I think I am, and I think I'm fine. There's always a risk, and Haaland blanking will possibly spoil the whole week, or the weekend at least. But let's take our chances. I'm generally scared, and I'm not even hiding behind the fact that I'm not scared, because I am scared of what Haaland can do this week. I know Saka's potential. I know Bournemouth are a really bad defense at the moment. I know all of those things, and the mind says Haaland, the heart says Saka, and I think I'm probably going to listen to my head and to my brain, and that's where I am. Why not Madison? I mean, he's a great differential, but I just feel for me, for my team and my playing style, I mean, all of you might have a different playing style. All of you might have a different thinking and a different mindset in terms of playing FPL and making your moves. But I think for me and the way I function and I work, I think I would want to see a couple of weeks from Madison. He's returning from injury. How many minutes is he gonna get? How Leicester are gonna do? Because the fixtures are decent now from now till Game Week 29 at least, even beyond that, in fact. And I think I would want to see a couple of weeks from Madison, see how Leicester are doing, and then probably jump on to Madison in Game Week 28 or 29. That's my strategy. In case if you want to go a bit risky, go a bit aggressive, you can still go for Madison right from the offset, and reap the gains if you get any hauls from Madison. I think the rank gains could be massive here. I still have triple captain. When should I play it? I think the strategy in general is wildcard in 26, 27. Even I've seen a few people also think about wildcard in game week 28, 29, 30. I think all of these weeks are better for the wildcard. Free hit weeks are generally, I don't think so. You need to do a free hit in 28. You can do a free hit in 29. You can do a free hit in 32, 34, 37, or maybe 32 is possibly the better options between 32, 34, and 37. And then for the triple captaincy, you can maybe go for 34 or 37. I think those will be better weeks. Maybe not use a triple captain. I don't think so. Triple captain is the ideal chip in Game Week 29. I think they're better chips. Again, it depends on what all chips do you have left. If you don't have the free hit left, if you don't have the wild card left, I think in that sort of a scenario, you try to maximize the gains from a triple captain, maybe even a bench boost. Let's say if you don't even have a bench boost, or you're not planning to use a bench boost in Game Week 29, in that scenario, you can use your triple captain in Game Week 29 because, of course, you have double game week fixtures. You have a lot of players who have a good double game week, and I think it's not the easiest call to take or make in terms of choosing a captain that week because a lot of the good teams like Arsenal, Man City, they don't have a double. A lot of decent teams have a double. A lot of bad teams also have a double. So who do you captain that week? I think it's a bit risky. But yeah, I mean, depends on your chip strategy and what chips you have left. Is the exact team set and locked, right? I think yes. I mean, I'm still thinking whether to play Ward over Raya, but I'm still gonna stick to what it is there on the screen. There are no changes for sure, no transfers for sure, unless we get some random rumor that just 10 minutes before the deadline that this player is injured or this player is out or this player is starting, etc. I don't think so. There are any changes to this team. I think pretty much set and forget right now. I think Haaland captain, Saka vice captain. Start F1 fantasy also. I mean, there's a lot of effort to. What happened last season with me is that I started playing F1 fantasy, but then a couple of weeks I missed the deadline. I don't miss races because I watch every session. I watch practice sessions. I also watch qualifying. I watch the race. Sometime if because of some emergency or some reason I've missed the race, I try to catch up. On the telecast, on the recorded telecast, which is basically the whole race, seeing the whole race afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I generally forget to. There's already FPL, then there was UCL as well last season. So I was, forgetting making changes to the F1 fantasy team, and I think let's see, maybe not this season. Just gonna enjoy F1 in general. Maybe next season. Kepa, Robinson, Tarkowski, Shaw, Salah, Odegaard, Rashford, Mitoma, Watkins, Kane, Haaland. On your bench, you have Ward-Prowse, Trippier, Bueno. One transfer left. Suggestions. I mean, I would try to get some money out of Salah. I think Watkins, Kane, Haaland is fine. You don't have to necessarily go for Tony. In case if you want to go for Tony, you make the move from Watkins to Tony next week. I mean, I just still feel you are maximizing getting one additional fixture, especially in the short run. But I think I'll try to get in Brighton players. I think maybe an additional Brighton player, maybe a defender. Especially, I think you don't have any options in terms of there's this Ward-Prowse, then there is Bueno as well. I think these are the options. There's not a lot of money in the bank as well, so I think it's gonna be a bit risky or a bit tricky to kind of make transfers here. But I'll possibly downgrade a Tarkowski, or maybe downgrade Shaw and get some additional money and make an additional move. I think and load up on Brentford and Brighton options. Maybe Estupinian is one option where I can Salah to maybe a March, for example. You can do it this week, and then you do the Estupinian move next week. I think that is something that you can also look at. Uh, Watkins to Tony is another move maybe you can look at, but I think you'll have to get some money first. So I think selling Salah will give you that cash, which helps you to make multiple transfers. I think priority should be to probably sell Salah and get in a cheaper option, and then maybe just sit tight and take a hit next week and try to maximize on your Brentford and Brighton players. Zinchenko, good long term pick. Gabriel, good in the short term. If you only want this Arsenal defender for the next 2 to 3 weeks, you go for Gabriel. Otherwise, if you plan to hold this option, I think Zinchenko is pretty good. Why start March over Mitoma? March has better stats. He's looked more attacking. Mitoma has slightly shifted wider. His involvement in terms of goals has come down a bit. He was already overperforming his his goal threat numbers, his expected goals, etc. Just because of the fact that he was on this run, he was scoring a lot and scoring from very odd ranges and scoring great goals, in fact. But that didn't continue, and I think also because of the fact that if McAllister is playing in that number 10 role, I think that really spells good for March rather than Mitoma, because then Mitoma's goal threat definitely significantly reduces. So I think in general March is looked a lot better, and I think his his stats, his numbers after the FPL restart from Game Week 17 in terms of goal involvements, I think has been the best among all Brentford options. Sorry, Brighton options, and I think that's enough reason for me to start March over Mitoma. Odegaard, Martinelli, safer is Odegaard. Sorry, Martinelli is the more aggressive option. Depends on which direction you want to take. I think both are good options. Why do you have Odegaard and not Martinelli? Is the third best captain pick because of the Hall in reverse. Um, I mean, I think Odegaard in general is the safer option. I think just because of the fact that a lot of people have Odegaard in their team, and they would probably want a captain. I think he's probably the better option in general. In terms of my personal decision, I think I mean it's not very. I do prefer Martinelli, but just because of the fact that Odegaard, maybe Martinelli gets limited minutes, maybe he gets an early sub, etc. In general, when I say Martinelli is a better pick, I think I'm also looking at the next 2 to 3 game weeks in general, and that's where my thinking is in terms of Martinelli being the more aggressive option, and Odegaard maybe not being as aggressive as a Martinelli, but I think the slightly safer option in terms of chance creation, in terms of maybe minutes as well on the pitch, I think it's Odegaard, and I think it's not a huge difference. And I could have also written Martinelli here, but I think it's just a gut call which says that when we talk about captaincy, maybe Odegaard is a slightly safer option, just because of the fact that he also is probably nailed for more minutes. That's an important factor when we're considering captaincy as well. Is there any point keeping Kepa if I have Raya? I mean, you can get the Raya plus Kepa combination. Yeah, I mean Raya Kepa combination on your wildcard or in general as well. Should I get Ward in for Kepa to save some cash? If you are going to utilize this cash to make certain upgrades, try to see what transfers you're going to make in 27, 28, 29 at least. And if you need that additional cash, if you don't, then just go for Kepa. If you do, then go for Ward. I think I will require that additional cash, and I'm okay. I mean, I don't see Ward versus Kepa being a massive difference. Could be huge again, but Chelsea aren't really in great form and they aren't really keeping a lot of clean sheets, so I'm not very confident there. Nketiah injury news come in. I think we'll quickly see. I think Nketiah was a doubt, anyways. Yeah, that's what I read. I mean, not sure if Nketiah is gonna start. So yeah, we'll quickly check again. I mean, Arteta said that he's fine. Hopefully, he's fine. He ended the game well, but he has been carrying a little thing. So let's see. I mean, might not start. Uh, we are assessing Eddie Nketiah, and it's a bit uncertain what's going to happen with him. To be honest, may not start, but I don't see any leaks or any additional information over this. If you do have some information, please do share it with me and on the stream as well. I think it'll be really helpful for all of us. Seeing your rank, I completely understand your wild card. I've been just outside the top 1 million since the World Cup, and without a few risks, I'm not gaining. I mean, if you are at 1 million at the moment, I think you will have to take a few risks. Now, there are multiple ways of taking that risk. The first is basically you try to go for differential options. You try to go for your medicines, for your, maybe double ups on a McAllister in a March, for example. May not go for Mitoma. may not have Estupinian, maybe have a different option there. May go for Iheanacho, may even go for a West Ham option, maybe a Watkins. All of these are differentials. You know, the gains could be made if you, let's say, take out a Haaland, for example, and that's what you've done as well. If you take out Haaland and if you get in Watkins, if he does well, I think those are the gains that you can really make. The second option is to basically try your hands at captaincy, right? A lot of people might captain Haaland or Saka. You may captain, I mean, this is just an example, but you may captain Rashford this week or a Kane this week, which are differential options. And if Rashford, if Saka and Haaland they blank, and if your captain does well, I think the gains could be massive. But I mean, there are a lot of, if you can already see there are a lot of ifs and buts, right? And it's difficult to gain rank, but I understand the decision of going without Haaland, because if you're at that 1 million and currently how the teams are structured and how everybody's playing FPL, I think you will possibly have to take a few risks. What's an argument for captaining Haaland over Tony? Really not sure, but everyone seems to go for Haaland, even though Tony's fixtures look better to me. I mean, it's so first of all, it's I understand why would you say Tony, because he seems like the focal point or the main attacker in the Brentford team. He's on penalties as well. Is it that Man City are a much superior attack? I mean, do let me know if you don't think that, but I generally believe that Man City are a much superior attack. Haaland is rested as well. The team plays to Haaland's strength where they try to feed the ball to Haaland. I mean, Man City are generally very single-minded in their approach. Now, it's not very difficult to predict how they're going to play their games, and they're going to give as many balls as possible to Haaland and try to bring him in the game. He's a great finisher. He's also in penalties. He can score a hat trick in any game. I'm not very sure if I'm very comfortable saying that about Tony. Right? Yes, Tony has also given us hauls, etc. But I mean, there's always a chance that you may get a haul from a Buemo, for example, or a Visa, for example, may score for Brentford, or Brentford might share the attacking returns through somebody else. I think if Man City are going to score 3 or 4 goals, there's a high chance that Haaland gets a brace in there, which may or may not be the case when we're talking about Brentford options. I mean, when we look at Tony as well, he's in the last 4 weeks he's not he's just scored 1 goal, and before that as well he did get a double digit haul in game week 18. Then he got a double digit haul against Man City where he scored 2 goals, and he got 13 points. But yeah, I mean, his returns, if you see, haven't been that consistent. Yes, he's gotten those 4 or 5 big hauls, which are massive hauls, and because of which his points have really increased a lot. But I just feel Haaland is the better player. He's playing for a better attack, and I mean, it's just Haaland, right? I mean, I know that might not be the biggest argument, or might not be convincing enough for a lot of people, and you might think that maybe against Fulham, maybe not having Palinia as well, Tony has great potential, Brentford has great potential. Now that can absolutely be the case, but I still think I'll go Haaland. And again, if you do not want to consider that effective ownership and how safe and how risky, etc., you want to go, that's fine. But I think a lot of people also take that into consideration. Now you may think that's right, you may think that's wrong. That's absolutely fine. But I think those probably would be the reasons why I'm captaining Haaland over Tony. Darwin on Tony, definitely Tony. Team news and ticks has some news at 4:15. Let's see. I think it's 4:16. Let's see if we have anything. Mahrez not starting today is what Team News and Ticks is saying. Mahrez doesn't start. I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? It's difficult to keep Mahrez now, considering the fact that now Foden has come in. Mahrez, he was playing so well. I mean, everybody thought that he's going to get majority minutes or regular minutes. Now he's not even, you know, making the 11, and Foden has come into the frame all of a sudden. So that's just what happens in Pep's teams and Man City teams, and it's very difficult to accept it and kind of move on from there. But I think it's time that you move on from Mahrez. I don't think so. He's worth keeping. Rate my team: Kepa, Tarkowski, White, me, Rashford, Saka, Odegaard, Mitoma, Tony, Haaland, Kane. Solid team. Tarkowski is probably the only option I'll try to change. Rest looks pretty good. Why Estupinian? Good goal threat. Can create chances. Looks like a nailed option. Good for bonus points. Is the most attacking option in the in the Brighton defense, and has a higher ceiling than somebody like a Dunk, for example. So I think those would be the reasons of why going for him over other Brighton options. In general, I think Brighton, because the fact that Brighton have that volume of games in 27, they have a decent double in 29. they do blank in 28, but then I can just bench Estupinian that week and not take him out. And even after that, I mean, after that, yes, Brighton fixtures become a bit tricky, so we might pivot to Man City options. We might go towards Man United options, maybe even Spurs, maybe Newcastle. I think those would be the core teams that you look at from game week 30 onwards. But I think right now, Estupinian in the short run, considering that they have a good volume of games, I think he's good. Why Henry over Ben Me? I'm saving money here. It's not a huge decision. It's not. I think both of them are nailed. I think Henry definitely has more assist potential, whereas Me has more goal threat. So take your pick. I just feel I can save this additional money and use this money elsewhere. I don't necessarily have to spend that additional money when I'm getting a slightly cheaper asset who's not very far off from what Me is giving in general. So I think it's fine. Is it mandatory to use your free hit this week? No, it's not. You have two Liverpool assets. Should you suggest to use a chip? I don't suggest to use the free hit chip. Free is a better chip in Game Week 28. I mean, not even 28. I think free hit in 29 is very powerful. Free hit in 32, 34, 37 could also bail you out in those weeks where your team might not be in the most ideal position. So I think those are better weeks to use the free hit. Not definitely not this week. Estupinian plays in Australia before the double game week. Yes, he does, and he will have a lot lesser time. But I still think that I mean it's not that Estupinian has any replacements available in the team, right? I mean, and even if they do, even if a Solly March, for example, plays there, I just don't think so. They provide that sort of a defensive cover plus the attacking threat position Estupinian can give because he's definitely one of the most important players in that Brighton team at the moment, and I think maybe he plays limited minutes, especially with the five substitution rule. He can always come off at 60 minutes, maybe even lesser. But I think it's still worth going for him, to be very honest. Is having Raya and Ward compared to Raya and Kepa safe? I mean, it's safe. It doesn't look ideal on paper because you would feel that Ward and Leicester, they are quite leaky. They may not suddenly improve over the next 2 or 3 game weeks, and they'll still concede a lot of chances, concede a lot of goals as well. But I don't think so. It's not that Chelsea is keeping clean sheets left, right, and center, and they are a great defense at the moment. And I'm not very comfortable by having this much value attached to goalkeepers because that's generally how I play. I mean, if you feel that you need to have Kepa and you're trying to maximize gaming 29, and if you're very comfortable about Kepa keeping maybe at least one clean sheet, if not two, considering the double is quite tricky, you can go for him. But I mean, I'll just save the cash here. Maris doesn't start. That's what we read. Yeah, I mean that's just how things are at the moment. So start Nathan Ake or Trippier. I think I'll start Nathan Ake over Trippier. Best 1 week punt, any midfielder, wildcard next week. If you're taking a 1 week punt, go for Madison. I think he's a great option. The fixture is really good against Southampton, and why not take a shot and give him a chance this week? I think he could be great. Maybe go for Foden if you are looking at a 1 week option or 1 week punt because of the fact that Mahrez is not starting. I'm comfortable that Foden would start, and yeah, I mean Foden or Madison are probably the punts that I'll take. You can even look at Chelsea, but Chelsea doesn't really provide me a lot of confidence, and I'm skeptical when I'm suggesting or I'm thinking about Chelsea options in general, and I probably won't go there. As per leaks, Mahrez not starting. That's what we read. Akshat, sell Mahrez. He's Mr. UCL for Man City. I mean, he is Mr. UCL, and there is a UCL game coming up, and Man City does need to win that game to progress through the later stages of the Champions League. And I think Mahrez definitely comes on in this game this week. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely time to sell Mahrez. There's about 10 minutes to go. Do hit the like button if you've enjoyed the stream so far, if you found this useful, if I've been able to help you with your questions, with your queries, or with your thinking in general. Please do hit the like button. It does really help us with the algorithm, and we're trying to reach to as many people as we can. So I think that will be really, really appreciated. If you're new around here, if you've joined us for the first time, make sure that you also subscribe to the Insanely Football YouTube channel. We do a lot of content on FPL every week. There's also a blog that we have. There's also a podcast that we have. All the links are in the stream's description as well. So you can check that out. There's a lot of content that we do on a weekly basis. And I think, that's just going to continue and get better every week. So that's where we are. Kane captain, not the most ideal or captaincy option this week. I think there are better options in Saka or even Rashford. But yeah, if you don't have them, if you probably don't want to go there, if you are doing chasing, if you trying to gain ranks, etc., and trying to basically do things differently, I think that's the biggest plot here. I mean, he's definitely not the best captaincy option in terms of the opposition, in terms of being on paper, in terms of team's form, in terms of how Tottenham play. Tottenham are a very tricky team to predict at the moment, and I think anybody who says that Tottenham is absolutely going to smash Wolves might be a Tottenham fan or might be very confident about Harry Kane and Tottenham in general, which I am not. I'm a little bit skeptical in terms of their week in week out performances, and I think Kane is a good option in isolation, and he may still do well. But I just think that even a Rashford against Liverpool is probably a better option right now. I'm in a wild card. Should I sell White for Zinchenko? I think you can. You don't have to. I think White, personally, I think White is a nailed option. And again, if you need the cash, you just keep White. I think it's fine. But if money's not a problem, I think having Zinchenko should be okay. And if you want to go even safer and you are trying to, you know, maybe goal, maximize your attacking threat, maximize your points. I think Gabriel in the short run, especially in the next 2 to 3 weeks, might have slightly better potential as compared to somebody like a Zinchenko. So that's where I am. But yeah, it's not a necessary sell. If you have the flexibility and if you have the additional money, then you can do it. Who are you rooting for in F1? I'm a Alonso fan. I've been an Alonso fan since 2003. I mean, I didn't even realize it's been 20 years since I've been watching F1, and then 20 years since I am a Alonso fan, and of course, I am still an Alonso fan. So I'm rooting for him. Happy that he's done well so far in the two sessions that have happened. Of course, there's a lot to come. The whole season has to come, and a lot could change. There's car development. There is then how teams or how Aston Martin in particular do on the race day. The qualifying trim and all that is of course a different discussion. But I think I'm not an Aston Martin fan, to be very honest. I like Mercedes as a team. I respect Hamilton a lot, but yeah, I think when we talk about F1 drivers, I'm definitely rooting for Alonso. Will March start? Definitely looks like he's gonna start. He's fit. He and Estepinian. We got to know from Deserby that they are fit and they are expected to start. I don't see a scenario where March and Estepinian get benched, because it's a tricky game. West Ham is not going to be an easy game, and I think both of them do start this week. Great, guys. 5 more minutes to go. Please do feel free to add any questions, etc. in case if you have. But yeah, before that, do make sure that you save your teams, you select your right captaincy. Don't keep it till the very end, because the servers might crash. A lot of people are wildcarding. A lot of people are active in general this week, and the servers might just crash. A couple of minutes before the deadline. So, and anyways, I think it was just 5 minutes away. But yeah, just make sure that you make your moves, save your transfers, save your teams, and select your captains. Just do that right now. Take a minute, do that, and come back to the stream. Start one between March or Watkins. That's a tough one. It's Crystal Palace. It's a home game for Villa. I think in terms of the fixture difficulty, definitely Villa has the slightly easier fixture. It's a home game for Villa. Watkins has been in good form. I think if I'm starting one option, I'll start Watkins out of the two. And Brighton against West Ham. West Ham, if they turn up, could be a tricky game. I know Brighton is also playing at home, but yeah, I think in terms of pure fixture difficulty, I think Watkins might have a better game than March. If not Hamilton, I want a new name to win F1 season. I mean, yeah, why not? There's always a good. It's always good to see new people coming up and new people becoming champions. We've seen the likes of Vettel, Hamilton, and then Verstappen dominate for such a long time, and I think it's good for the sport, good for the game as well. And I think, yeah, it's always good to see a new champion. Sarabia to Saka for a -4. I think I'll do it. I know it's for a hit, but I think it's still fine. Saka is a good option. I think he's going to be a highly captained or a decently captained option this week, and I think it's worth going for him. Emerson Royal, Tim Ream, Estupinian start two. I'll start Royal and Estupinian. I think not much of a conversation there. I think Royal and Estupinian are the ones to go for. Moment coming to spoil our weekend. Let's see. Let's see. I mean, that particular line from Christian Horner or the commentators was, I mean, especially, I mean, of course it was not in the season prior to last season, but yeah, just the way Hamilton lost that championship, it was not fair. I mean, of course we can debate about it. And my wife is a Hamilton fan, and I mean, it was so heartbreaking for her to see all that live on TV. It was a tough watch. March and Kane or Salah and Felix? Definitely March and Kane. Not a question at all. Please don't spam by posting the same question again. That'll be really appreciated. Great guys. One more minute to go. So in case if you have any last words, any last thing, I've already answered this. Please don't spam the chat. It's March and Kane. How about Captain Martinelli? Very risky. I mean, Bournemouth are a team that have conceded a lot of goals, but Martinelli just feels a bit risky. If I'm going for captaincy, which is not Haaland, I'll still stick my guns with Saka. It feels a lot risky. I was frustrated with Max won it. I mean, yeah, it was really unfair, and it's deadline, guys. For me, it's deadline. It's 4:30 for me, so that's it. That's about it. Finally, we get that wild card out of the way and wild card planning out of the way. It's been a hectic couple of days. But I'm just glad it's over, and we can move on from the wild card. I was frustrated when Max won it. It was so unfair for Hamilton to lose the champ. I mean, it was, especially the way that, I mean, if Max won the last race fair and square, absolutely fine. And he would have been a worthy and a deserved champion. I think he still deserved to win the champion. Just the fact that Hamilton dominated that race from start to finish. He was leading before the safety car, and it just felt very manipulated in terms of the rules not being followed properly. Because it was a title decider and the final moments of the season, having that mega finish, or doing that for ratings or whatever that reason was. We still don't know what exactly or why that happened. Yes, there have been reasons given by the FI that it was human error and all that stuff, but yeah, I was just, especially for a Hamilton fan or for Hamilton fans in general, even for an F1 fan, I mean, you do not want to see that. I mean, you want to see a fair fight. That definitely didn't feel like a fair fight. I know even the Max, I think Max Verstappen fans also would kind of say that yes, they would be very happy that it was his first championship, and they might hate Hamilton, and all that kind of rivalry kind of kicks in. But if somebody says, even if it's a Max fan says that it was a fair end to the race, I just don't, or I just won't buy that. So yeah, that's where I am. Great guys, all the best for game week 26. We've reached the deadline. I hope you have a great week and a great weekend. Do watch the matches. Do have a great time. Yeah, hoping for no party spoilers. Let's see. Let's see. We'll be back next week with another deadline stream. Of course, there'll be content as always. We'll be active on the blog. We'll also post out stuff on Instagram. We'll also do videos. But yeah, we will see you next week. Have a great week. Keep smiling. Have a lovely time with your friends, family, or whatever you're going to do on your weekend. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye bye. Have a good time.